a bit of a knee problem and I offered to volunteer. I opted to go to what parkrunners said was Siberia, the furthest point I think it is. So I went to this particular corner one week, and the following week I volunteered again. I said I don't mind going to this particular point. I think it's fantastic. I think the people who finish in the top 10 are fantastic, but I equally think the people who finish in the bottom 500 are fantastic. Everybody's trying, everybody's giving of their best. I know it's not a race. You tell the people who run by me looking at their watch whether it's a race or not. I think people benefit immensely from it, and it's not just physical benefits. I've spoke to people who say how mentally good it is to do parkrun. To go to the corner, back to... You can't believe it, Michelle. We'll have to start that again.
Hi, my name is Michelle Lewis. 10 years ago, you'd have been lucky to see me run to the end of the road. These days, running is second nature to me. From marathons to park runs to putting my own running group through their paces. You'll often see me in suitably loud attire, getting ready to pound the pavements. And here's a secret, if I can do it, you can too. There's so many wonderful and inspiring stories in the world of running. And not just running, some of my favourite tales involve those who take to their wheelchairs, bikes or simply their own trusty feet in an attempt to get fitter, faster or just have some fun. In this podcast, I'm going to be in conversation with some of the most inspiring and fascinating of these people. Remember, it's your time, your speed, your way. The only person you need to keep up with is yourself. Welcome back to the Running Tales podcast. This week I've been talking to one of my favourite runners, Bryan Lewin. Park runs up and down the country have a Bryan, that extra special volunteer who turns up in wind, rain and shine. In Northampton, one of ours, we have a few, is Bryan. Every week he turns up on the corner of the course to cheer every runner, walker and wheelchair user on. I spoke to Bryan about how he came to find his corner and the running journey which preceded Park Run.
I was late into running. In fact, the first real run I did was when I was 41. I was a mediocre sports person. As anybody who played with me or against me knows, I played cricket and football locally. But in around 1990, my brother and I both applied in the ballot to enter the London Marathon. And the week before Christmas, we both found out that we were in, and that's where it started.
So you was a late runner?
I was a late runner, as I say. I'd never had any experience or done any running when I was younger, just the usual sort of stuff to keep fit, but didn't compete in any races or anything silly like that.
Obviously, if you don't mind sharing, we know you're in your early 70s, so you was in your 40s when you
I was
started.
72, yeah, I'm 72 now, so I was 41 when I started, 41 when I ran the London Marathon, and I ran that year because I got the bug, as some people obviously do, and I ran the Luton Marathon that year on my 42nd birthday, and I remember that well because I injured myself literally before the start.
Oh wow. So what was your training? You got into London, and then what was your first thought? Oh my god, join a club, or come on bruv, we'll run round the block and see if we can survive?
Very naive, and compared to what I see people do nowadays, yeah, it was literally a bit of running. I live in Kingsthorpe in Northampton, so a little bit of running around the block. We can soon get out into the country where I live. I listened to lots of people who'd run marathons. I listened to everyone, but sifted the information I was given and followed their advice.
And you got round London?
Yeah, got round London. Official time 4 hours 5 minutes.
Wow.
Very frustrated because in those days no chip timing. 15 minutes to cross the start line, so missed out on the 4 hour, which was disappointing. And although it was never again immediately afterwards, I think the next day or so it was, I've got to get below 4 hours, as I say, and that's where it started.
You say that, but my dad did the London marathons as well around that time, and the goodie bags were amazing. I used to go down and, wait for him at the finish, and he'd give me his goodie bag.
Yeah, of course the finish was different then, and you went round the back of County Hall to collect your goodie bag. And I remember crossing the footbridge over the Thames and having to climb the stairs backwards because of my legs.
So what happened after? You said you did Luton Marathon.
Yeah, I did Luton and Nottingham that same year, and I know it sounds odd, but I actually enjoyed going out running. It was something I enjoyed, mindlessly going out. My wife and I got relatives in the northeast, and at that time, to enter the Great North Run, you needed to fill an application form in and collect some vouchers from the local newspapers in the northeast. And providing you got an address you could use in the northeast,
really?
Which we had, you could enter the Great North Run. So we entered that time, I think it was the following year, we entered the Great North Run, and that became a favourite. I've now run the Great North Run 18 times, and in latter years I ran it in fancy dress.
Yes, I've seen some pictures. Do you want to explain some of your fancy dress outfits,
Well,
or is that for another time?
It was for a reason. My niece, Stacey, died in...
Oh,
Sorry.
We can hold if you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. My niece died in 1997 from meningitis, and my brother and his wife were very keen to fundraise, and we wanted to give publicity to the charity, and as Michelle knows, I'm never short of a word or two. So I became a bit of a spokesperson for what we were doing, and we obviously wanted to get publicity, so wearing fancy dress, getting Jonathan Edwards, for example, to interview us during the course of the run was an objective, and fancy dress was the key to doing that, and we just had various fancy dress. I wore various odds and ends over the years, and it didn't seem that strange at the time, but looking back at some of the photographs, I'm not sure how I did it.
Would you say it's fair that fancy dress has got more popular in races and running generally now than it was when you first started?
Yes, I mean I've been in runs years ago where people dressing up or carrying a ladder or
fridge
freezer or 800 balloons were the odd ones out, but yeah, definitely. And of course, in parallel with that, people running for charitable purposes has grown enormously.
You've done your marathons. How many have you done in total? If you did 3 in the first year.
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I think it's 17 or 18. I ran London, Luton, Nottingham. I've run a few more than once. I've run Snowdonia a couple of times. I've run the Potteries Marathon a couple of times.
Oh, hilly.
hilly. Snowdonia was interesting. Dublin, New York, Cleveland, White Rose. So a few different ones, but plenty of half marathons and above 20 milers. I used to run the Bury St Edmunds 20 in preparation for marathons. And there used to be runs years ago, like round Rutland Water, 17 miler. Folks with 15.
So you obviously over time the mileage has got lower, but with respect, you have done a half marathon in recent years with your daughter, and can we discuss like how it's not just you that's a runner now, or your brother? It's passed down the generations, and you're actually running with them.
Yes, because we'll start with the last year I ran the Great North Run with my eldest daughter Kirsty. It didn't end as well as I'd have wanted it to. All was going well for 10 miles. We were about 150 odd over 10 miles, so I was looking to break 230. That looked good, and then I had cramp. And I've got a very low threshold of pain, and basically walked the last 2 or 3 miles. Finished, got the t-shirt and the medal, great, but then I wasn't very well, and I won't go into details. After the run, went into the medical tent and various tests. That it was all a bit embarrassing actually, but
so can we just stop there? So it wasn't mile 11 that you stopped for a beer, it was a case of before then.
no, I have stopped and had a beer during a run.
It has to be done.
And there used to be a run in Leicestershire where you got a free pint in the local pub after doing a 10k.
Right, we'll talk more about that after the podcast.
Yeah. And you're right, I'm not sure necessarily influenced by me, but virtually everyone in my family has turned out to be runners. Margaret, my wife, has run the London Marathon a couple of times. Son-in-law Kevin, he's a 3:10 marathoner. Kirsty's run, Nikki's run. Kirsty's run 3 marathons. Nikki's run the Great North Run with me, and embarrassingly for her, I had to answer sort of questions about why is your dad running in fancy dress. And the children, grandchildren, are all at some point or other been running. Yeah,
and one in particular, your grandson,
Finbar's kept up his running. He's a very dedicated runner. I can't believe someone the age of 16 does the amount of running that he does. I certainly wasn't doing that at his age, and I admire him and respect him for what he does. Yes.
Let's lead on to my favourite subject, parkrun. You came a few years ago.
Yeah, embarrassingly, when I think back, I ran the park run without ever registering. So I did run it and barcode. I don't want a barcode. And ran with the grandchildren a few times. And then I had a bit of a knee problem and thought, well, this event is pretty good. I like the idea of parkrun. I think the concept is absolutely fantastic. And I offered to volunteer, and I'm not quite sure in the midst of time, it's only 4 years ago, but how it was. But I opted to go to what parkrunners said was Siberia, the furthest point, I think it is. So I went to this particular corner one week, and the following week I volunteered again. I said I don't mind going to this particular point. It was actually very therapeutic because the round trip from parking the car, picking up a beer, going to the corner, dropping off my bib and going back to the car was about 2 miles, which was okay for my knee. And after I'd had the operation, it was good from a recuperation point of view. And I just got into the habit of it, and successive run directors have sort of said, yeah, all right, you go down to that corner then, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, through social media, as you know, at the time I was the main communicator on the Facebook page of Northampton Parkrun. The comments coming through, especially with the photos, whoever was the photographer that day, the comments on the photo of you on that corner was always so positive that I sort of like made the Bryan's corner what it is now. and you can beat me up if you want. No, I'm joking, but it's lovely that you have got that corner. And we've got Joe's corner, we've got Alfie and Elaine on the bollards, we have Viv that does have corner, and Ian. It's nice that people have
it's
roles
a very friendly atmosphere, considering there's over 600 people. I won't pretend that I know
you know every name. You know everyone.
I don't
apart from the tourists.
I can't just stand there and just direct people as if they need any directing. I just have to say something. I've got to know people through parkrun. Equally, it surprised me how many people I've seen parkrunning at Northampton Racecourse who I knew in any case from sport, from working with them, from family and friends connections.
How's it feel to know that park runners come, like Carol, all the way from Corby in a wheelchair, because of people like you that give them motivation and support?
Carol comes all the way from Corby in her wheelchair just to be verbally abused by me, and that's her version of events, not mine. I think it's fantastic. I think the people who finish in the top 10 are fantastic, but I equally think the people who finish in the bottom 500 are fantastic. Everybody's trying, everybody's giving of their best. I know it's not a race. You tell the people who run by me looking at their watch whether it's a race or not. I think people benefit immensely from it, and it's not just physical benefits. I've spoke to people who say how mentally good it is to do parkrun, and you have probably got more examples than I have.
Do you feel a bit of a celebrity? Have you been like in a supermarket
Absolutely
and someone
not.
go, Bryan from Parkrun?
Absolutely not, but I've been in various places where people have said, hello Bryan, and I genuinely haven't got the faintest clue, and my facial expression obviously reveals that, and they say, see you on Saturday morning, and I know immediately who they are.
How are you coping with no parkrun at the moment?
Yeah, it is strange, because on a Saturday morning I'd really got into the habit. It was just part of my life on a Saturday morning to marshal parkrun. I do an outdoor fitness regime with a group called Be Military Fit on Abington Park, and I still wear a bib on a Saturday morning because on a Saturday morning before I do Be Military Fit, I now do litter picking on Abington Park.
Wow, you're always giving. It's brilliant.
No, it's just doing something
for the community.
Well, yeah.
That's good. What advice would you give to anyone who's, thinking, I'm going to give this parkrun a go when it's active again?
The hardest step is the one when you go out the door. Once you've gone out the door, it's easy. You're going to meet people who will encourage you, support you. You're going to feel great afterwards. It is not, genuinely, it's not for people who are runners who want to achieve massive times. It's for people who want to get out and enjoy themselves whilst running, or walking, or wheeling.
So there you have it. Who'd have thought that parkrun legend Bryan Lewin was once a barcode avoider? The shame. What I love about Bryan is how modest he is about the fantastic work he does every week. It just brings home how and why we love parkrun and how much we're all missing it in these strange times. I hope you enjoyed this week's Running Tales podcast. Please leave us a review or rating wherever you listen. It helps more people to find the podcast. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.